It's fantastic to be here today to kick off proceedings for the very first ACCELERATERegTech conference. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here and also for the kind introduction from Lisa and indeed from Deloitte's role in making this happen as well. It's great to see so much of the sector represented here. The diversity of views and perspectives, I think, will be as important as the ideas that come out of today themselves. And I do want to congratulate the RegTech Association for putting this event together with your partners. The program looks like it's going to be very, very thought-provoking, and it should stimulate, I think, a lot of important insights, and I'm sure also that a lot of important outcomes will come out of the next couple of days as well. Now, as I'm sure that you'd all agree, I think a lot of great work is being done by the associations, both for members and for the broader financial services sector. In fact, I'm not aware of too many other groups of this nature with such a focus, and I believe that the support that the association is providing is really helping Australia taking a leading role in the development and deployment of RegTech solutions. Now, for me, one of the things that really stands out about the RegTech sector in Australia is how supportive the ecosystem is and the willingness everyone has to collaborate, be it to define challenges or come up with better solutions or ways of doing things. And I'll touch more on collaboration and information sharing a bit later on, as they're really areas that ASIC feels we can continue to play a positive role in supporting RegTech in Australia as well. But to start, I wanted to talk a little bit about ASIC's role in relation to RegTech. Now, although it's not something that we at ASIC regulate directly, RegTech is something that we're keenly interested in, and that's both as a consumer of RegTech products, but also as a facilitator of RegTech generally. Now, we strongly believe that RegTech should be top of mind for both regulators and business generally. And the reason for that is quite simple. The RegTech sector has enormous potential to help organisations build a culture of compliance, identify learning opportunities, and save time and money relating to regulatory outcomes, while improving compliance and, most importantly, improving outcomes for consumers. And that really links back to Tim's comments this morning. We should not lose sight of what we're really here to do. I think RegTech also has the potential to support ASIC and our regulatory peers in the way we undertake our own work, including the way we engage with business and all of you. A participant at one of ASIC's industry events on RegTech last year really summed it up beautifully for me by defining RegTech's potential to deliver, and I quote, a flawless consumer experience that is safe. You can't really just distill it much further than that, I think. Now, I want you to remember already that Australia has a track record in doing this. RegTech is already a core element of risk and compliance frameworks for some parts of the Australian financial system. And probably a key example here is in the monitoring of financial markets activity. And as we can all see, its use is rapidly evolving, and it's now extending to a much broader range of areas to assist businesses in meeting their regulatory obligations. And the possibilities are really endless. It really depends on the imagination, ingenuity and hard work of all of you here today. We do take our role as a facilitator of RegTech very seriously, and we want to do our best so that the community can get the benefit from these new technologies while minimising any risks that they might pose. Now, some of you might be aware that we put out a report this time last year asking you what you thought ASIC's role should be in relation to RegTech. In general, it's fair to say respondents were in favour of ASIC being very ambitious in the RegTech area, and that's very positive because it aligns with our own thinking. Respondents also raised complex questions of policy surrounding our role in the area of RegTech, and that we must consider how best to balance our roles as a regulator, but also as a technology user. They had encouraged us to improve transparency across the board in our engagement with the RegTech industry, which is something that we've been working very hard on. Now, whilst it isn't yet clear where technology will take us, we feel very strongly at ASIC that for ourselves and for other regulators, remaining open, engaged and globally connected will give us the best chance for RegTech to bring benefits to all participants in the financial sector. And our approach to RegTech at ASIC is guided by a series of quite basic principles. First, we want to work towards RegTech outcomes that align with our own strategic objectives. So, for example, confident and informed financial consumers, fair and efficient markets. Second, we want to undertake a number of focused initiatives in terms of RegTech technology that have near-term deliverables. And finally, we want to have regard for industry input, good international case studies and our own learnings in working out where we need to go in the future. I also believe it's important for regulators to keep an open mind and try to harvest the benefits of RegTech by adopting a technology-neutral approach. What's cutting-edge technology today rapidly becomes the cassette tapes of tomorrow, so I think that's very important. Finally, on innovation in general, whilst it's very important that ASIC doesn't stand in the way of technological change, we also need to continue our strategic objectives to make sure there's good governance in the financial sector more generally. And that balancing act is something that we always have to bear as a regulator when it comes to innovation. Not standing in the way of technology on the one hand, but making sure we remember those core jobs we have to do about fair and efficient markets and confident and informed consumers on the other. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the role of our Innovation Hub, which really drives a lot of ASIC's practical support for RegTech, FinTech and innovation more generally. In mid-2016, we expanded the role of our Innovation Hub to include engagement with the RegTech sector. And this work has included hosting and attending RegTech events, including our RegTech Roundtable and Showcase events of last year, as well as the ASIC Liaison Forum, which we proposed for feedback last year. And since announcing our interest in RegTech, we've had over 60 meetings with RegTech stakeholders and service providers to discuss their developments and try and help them navigate their path to success. In terms of services, through the Innovation Hub, we provide informal assistance to RegTech entities on their regulatory obligations, the overarching regulatory framework, and as appropriate, options relating to ASIC's relief powers. We've also been meeting with our international regulatory counterparts to discuss developments and policy proposals, and we're very interested in thinking about developments and proposals that might occur across borders. We'll continue to engage with the International Monetary Fund, the World Economic Forum and the Financial Stability Board to contribute to the global discourse on FinTech and RegTech and champion what's being done here in Australia. Also on the international front, we have the mechanisms in place to make referrals of RegTech providers under various cooperation agreements we have with other international agencies, and we're more than happy to try and do some of that heavy lifting where we can. Now, with regards to RegTech solutions, we're also conducting our own trials on RegTech technologies, which I'll talk about shortly. In many ways, we consider that what we're doing now is the starting point of an evolving approach to RegTech, and we hope to learn more about how we can promote collaboration and encourage the development of the RegTech sector from our work, other regulators, and of course, all of you and RegTech businesses more generally. So, of the key RegTech initiatives that we've undertaken that I want to take some time about, the RegTech Liaison Forum is probably a key one, and that was established in December of last year. And the purpose of this forum is really to facilitate networking and stimulate discussion on RegTech developments and opportunities that promote positive applications of regulatory technology. Through convening the forum, we're hoping to create a venue for information sharing and discussion and opportunities for future collaboration that will ultimately lead to great outcomes for consumers and an improved financial services sector. And we're also hoping that it provides a platform to help identify practical areas of focus for business and regulators. For example, One of the outcomes for us at ASIC so far has been to consider simple, practical, cost-effective measures to support good consumer and market outcomes through the development of RegTech applications. And this could translate into things like how we communicate guidance and make data available in the future. Now, we're hoping to hold these forum meetings every 3 months, and they're open to all interested parties. So I'd encourage all of you to attend if you have an interest. In fact, the next meeting that we've got lined up is on the 5th of June, and you can register via our Innovation Hub website to attend at our offices throughout Australia. So this is just not a Sydney exercise, this is throughout Australia. Finally, I'd like to give you a brief update on ASIC's natural language processing trials. So in February of this year, we released a set of problem statements with use cases to understand and encourage the application of natural language processing in resolving regulatory problems. The trials are to explore potential efficiencies and supervision, including through automation and prediction, and present a genuine learning opportunity for ASIC. Now, a tender was issued for the provision of pilots in the areas of things like promotions, that is marketing material and advertisements of concern for financial services and credit, phone sales practices for insurance, managed fund product disclosure statement reviews, financial advice file reviews, financial reporting reviews of company announcements, and prospectus reviews. I'm very pleased to say that the response to that was extremely positive. We've received approximately 30 applications, and we're in the process of meeting with a number of these solution providers. And our intention is to land on a set of trials in the coming weeks and conduct them this calendar year. And we'll keep you updated on how this is progressing and share any insights that we can in relation to our learnings. Now, a lot of this event is really focused on meaningful collaboration. So I thought it'd be a good idea to let you know how best to get in contact with ASIC. We've opened the doors formally on a number of times over the past 18 months at our RegTech Roundtable, our RegTech Showcase event and Liaison Forum, and we want to continue to do that whenever we can. I also want to remind you that outside of these larger events, ASIC welcomes individual contact from any of you through our Innovation Hub. Now, we're keen to hear from businesses that wish to share their progress in the development and application of regulatory technology, as well as those who are seeking informal assistance in developing their business. And we encourage both new and existing RegTech developers to make contact with us through our Innovation Hub pages. And importantly, I'd also encourage you to get in touch with us if you'd like to talk about doing things differently in the RegTech space, or would value having ASIC as an observer on a project that you're undertaking. Valuable collaboration can occur in many ways throughout the ecosystem, and I think it's important for all of us to be as receptive as we can to feedback, because that ultimately will help ensure that Australia continues to take a leading role in the development and deployment on RegTech solutions. So that's all the prepared comments I have today, but I think I've got about 10 minutes to take any questions that any of you might have. So over to you.
Okay, we can either do it through the phone or if you just want to put your hand up. Yeah.
It's fine to put your hand up. Okay.
I just wanted to ask if you could explain a little bit more about the natural language review.
Natural language processing. Yeah, so look, as I say, this is a pilot project, and we're very interested in thinking about how we ourselves might use this technology to help us in our work. So our work is very document heavy. It's a bit like compliance processes more generally. I mean, often compliance processes are not that digitised. They're quite manual and they're very document heavy. So, for example, we will review a very large number of promotional materials and fundraising materials every year. Now, because we have finite resources, as does everyone in the world, we need to do that on a risk-targeted basis. And the question for us is, can we use any of these new technologies, for example, to better speed up and improve our risk targeting And that will enable us to become more proactive in terms of the issues that we look at and more precise, I suppose, in terms of strategically what the areas are that we want to focus on. So that's the thinking behind it. And as I said at the outset, you know, I think ASIC's in a bit of a unique role because we're both, I firmly believe in future, a big consumer of RegTech products, but we also want to facilitate the industry. So the natural language processing work is around us being a consumer of those products. Yes?
Hi there. You mentioned that you were open to further conversations with the industry. I wondered if that extended as well to academia,
I think we would be interested in speaking with academics about work they may be doing that would be of interest. I mean, just to hark back to this issue of ASIC as a user of this technology, you know, think about it. For anyone that is in the risk management game, I think technology is the future. The ability to be able to get data, useful data in, be able to analyse that data and be able to use that in a much more value-add way than you can with manual processes. That's why we're so interested in that. And so if there's any academic work around that or thoughts about how to improve the RegTech sector or indeed risks that might come from RegTech, very happy to chat about that.
I guess as a follow-up, I was curious to learn a little bit more about what you're doing internationally.
Yes. Now, I'm not sure you have heard, but for example, recently our Treasurer was in the United Kingdom and he signed a document called the FinTech Bridge. And we are in discussions with the United Kingdom, for example, about whether there are opportunities to look at cross-border trials or work in relation to RegTech technologies. So that's an example there. Do I see all of this leading to a situation whereby there'll be a single global set of rules and requirements that people will have and we won't have domestic differences? No, let me be clear, no I don't. No I don't. You know, there's a real issue of national sovereignty in respect of making laws, and there will always be differences, I think, at the country level in terms of lawmaking. But I think there are opportunities to try and harmonise those laws, and we're very keen to sort of take that up and advance those discussions.
I wanted to ask you what were some of the key messages that came from your meetings with the FCA. If you could just share those with us, a little bit more detail, I guess, on what the...
Yeah, look, the FinTech Bridge is really the framework for further work that's to occur. So some of that will be around regulatory technologies, but some of that also is around the extent to which we can promote innovation. So, for example, through sandboxes. And also it's around more broadly sharing experiences and making sure that where there are differences in laws between jurisdictions, that's not acting, I suppose, as sand that's in the machine that's slowing down the adoption of good technology. So all those are sorts of examples of the issues that we've been discussing with the UK. Yes.
Thanks for your update. Just building on that question about the FCA, has there been any considerations with ASIC to run similar programs that FCA run with the tech sprints? So they run every quarter where they get the regulators and technology and industry together to trial a particular concept.
Yeah.
Is that something that ASIC are considering?
Yeah, look, we did think about, remember we had a showcase event, which was last year. The time seems to go so quickly. We had a showcase event where we did have RegTech technology providers actually doing those presentations, and we thought, we did think whether it was more appropriate to sort of have more of a problem-solving type event, dare I say it, a hackathon. Look, we thought for the size of our market, the showcase event was probably the better way to go at that stage, but we're always open to thinking about different types of models, and I suspect we will change our approach as the industry matures and evolves. Yeah. Goodness. No questions. This is great. Last chance.
We've got one over here.
One over here.
customers who are very keen to take up these really great products
Yes.
that will help them, but they're very nervous that ASIC is, not going to think that they meet the standards, and
Yeah.
they look for reassurance.
Yeah.
And of course, ASIC is never going to be able to say, yes, that meets the requirements of the law.
Yeah.
It's a judgment that we have to make.
Yeah.
Can you see a process for giving reassurance without ASIC stepping beyond what it's able to do?
So that's an excellent question. Let me highlight some of the challenges of this. Of course, when you introduce a RegTech tool, it's not a static event. So let me use an analogy in the markets area, for example. Well over 95% of trading in the Australian market by volume occurs through machines. Not people, through machines. There's a whole bunch of algorithms and technology tools that assist with that. They are not static tools. They change all the time. So the question I ask my staff, and I ask people from business, do you really want the regulator to look at every change of the algorithm that's coming through? Do you think that's a sensible outcome? And the answer for me is blindingly obvious. I mean, even if we wanted to do that, we don't have the skills nor the resources to do it. So I don't think we should do it. So where then should the responsibility lie in terms of the introduction of these tools? I think the responsibility does need to lie with the people who are using the tools. And what do we as a regulator focus on? We focus on the fact that there are good processes and procedures around the introduction of those tools. And also there's some sort of mechanism so that when things do go wrong, they can be fixed quickly. Now, we're more than happy to engage with RegTech firms developing RegTech solutions. We can talk to them, we can provide the benefit of our experience in terms of where some issues might be. But ultimately, I don't think we can provide the sign-off for those. If it provides, I suppose, large financial institutions with any comfort about the use of RegTech, you can say with absolute certainty that ASIC is actually gearing up its business to use more and more of these tools in the future. They are the future, as far as I'm concerned, for the work that we do. One more over there, I think.
Hi, John. So you talked before about, that in the sort of risk management world, the importance about technology for the future, which completely agree with you. How are you thinking about within ASIC about developing your own stuff around
great question.
this kind of piece? Because that's a challenge I think that
great
all
question.
industry faces.
No, very good question. So I think if I think about the journey that we're all on here, it's not just about RegTech. So a very important part is about organisation and skills. And from ASIC's point of view, we recently established a Chief Data Officer role to assist with that. It's about the technology and systems itself. So that is that's the immediate thing you think about with RegTech. It's about analytics techniques, data science and engineering. Of the data we do get, what can we use that for? And we already discussed natural language processing trials. So we get a lot of data at the moment, but it's about what you do with that data. And it's about data architecture and really how you get data in, because you can have the best technology tools in the world, but garbage in, garbage out remains a constant. So can we actually trust the data we're getting in? So it's not just about RegTech. I think all of those things are challenges, and they are challenges equally for people in business as they are for ASIC. And I go beyond that. If you think beyond the micro business part, there's a couple of other key challenges. It's around culture, the culture of the organisation to be committed to this journey, to be committed to compliance and the change that we're seeing through technology. It's around governance structures as well. So there's clear accountability and you know who's responsible for what. So, one last question, I think.
Hi, Bruce from Wordflow. I'm interested in the metrics of success. If you're a health worker, you inoculate the population and people don't get sick, and therefore that seems to be successful. But often I think ASIC and some of the other bodies seem to be in the limelight because they haven't prosecuted someone. So how do you get that balance between inoculation and and hitting with the big stick.
So let me give you a different example. Let me talk about an issue that we've raised on a number of occasions. It's around breach reporting, okay? Reporting of breaches, suspected significant breaches in financial institutions or actual breach notifications to ASIC. And this, I think, goes to the point of demonstrating the difficulty in measuring success. So I'm sitting at ASIC and I'm looking at an institution that has a very high number of breach reports compared to its peers. Should I be worried about that? Do they actually have better compliance procedures than the firm that reports very few breaches? Shouldn't I be worried about the firm that reports very few breaches, or should I be worried? So it exactly goes to this question around how do you measure success? So in some ways, if RegTech technology is successful, you might reasonably expect less action is taken against people rather than more action. But I think, you know, this issue around reporting and success measures, dare I say it, might even be a very fruitful area for RegTech providers to think about more generally, you know. What's the reporting that goes back through to the board of the institution that might indicate the culture of compliance within that institution? I know that's an issue that's well and truly occupying the minds of quite a number of people in the C-suite at the moment. So, thanks. I better wrap up. Thank you.